You took over a new business. Tell me about your founding story, because I feel like it maybe it's not even typical.
So we ended up going and acquiring this business that was supposed to have been stabilized, but turns out people's reputation is really, really important, and the previous owner didn't have that, or he had a reputation, it just wasn't a great one.
What do you think separates kind of successful business owners from struggling? Because you guys, as you're projecting for 2025, is to double your revenue from last year, so just under $1 million, to hit 800K. That's a lot of growth.
We consistently bite off more than we can chew, and we just choke it down.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Superpro Podcast, the heartbeat of home service excellence. I'm Roland. I'm the co-founder of Housecall Pro, and I'm your host today. I'm also an advocate for all the hardworking pros out there, help making our homes better, safer, and more comfortable. Through Housecall Pro, I've had the privilege of helping hundreds of thousands of pros just like you, empowering you all to achieve more, stress less, and redefine success in our industry. Today, I'm super excited. We're talking to Kyle Rosenbaum. He's the owner of AHAVAH Fire Chimney in Branson, Missouri. Kyle's journey is nothing short of inspiring. He went from knowing nothing about fireplaces to owning a thriving business in just a few years. I'm excited to ask him a whole bunch of questions. We'll dive into how he took a struggling business that he acquired, rebranded it, and then scaled it up, all while embracing risk and innovation. Let's get into it. Welcome, Kyle.
Thanks for having me, Roland. How are you?
Yeah, good. So you got into the business. You didn't know a lot about fireplace, or nothing really at all. You took over a new business. Tell me about your founding story, because I feel like it maybe it's not even typical, and so I want others to kind of hear it.
Yeah, great question, Roland. No, when you say I didn't know anything, I looked at a gas fireplace, and my first thought and comment was, well, I get that the fire comes out of little holes, but that's basically all that I knew. And chimneys, I was with the rest of every homeowner. You don't think about it. So we ended up going and acquiring this business that was supposed to have been stabilized, but turns out people's reputation is really, really important. And the previous owner didn't have that, or he had a reputation, it just wasn't a great one. So people didn't want to touch anything to do with the company for a while. And so it was.
And how did you come across it? You were like, okay, we're going to go acquire a company. What made you go like, well, this company?
Yeah, great question. No, actually, I was looking for another rental property to buy. So we just went and purchased our primary house, turned our existing into rental, and then we're just looking for another house to buy, just as an investment, and ended up coming across an RV parts business of nothing else. And I'm just like, I don't know anything about this, and started looking into it, and it's like, I don't even know what questions to ask. So I just started calling people in my contacts that I knew knew something about the business world in general. And I just started calling down them. Some of them I hadn't talked to in 2-3 years, and were as barely acquaintances at the time. One of them happened to be this gentleman that owned the fireplace company, and he was like, going through the numbers of this RV parts store, and he's like, that is a trash business. There's a horrible numbers. Why are you trying to buy that? And I'm like, I don't know. But he's like, well, I'm actually selling 3 of my companies, one of them being this fireplace company, and I'm moving to Florida. So you interested in that? And I'm like, tell me more. And that's kind of how that started.
And so how do you go from knowing not much or nothing besides, hey, yeah, gas kind of comes out of these holes, and then, you light it with fire. Like, how do you go from like that knowledge base to actually being able to run, a fireplace chimney sweep company?
Not without a lot of bumps and bruises. Yeah, everyone knows the sink or swim trial by fire, and really it's just the classic version of that. We had some techs in the field, lady in the office, everyone else in the company quit basically just before the acquisition. And you can learn a lot on your own, along with support and asking questions and not being afraid of asking questions. Really, really quickly, when you have no other choice. And so we had our distributors, we had even some of our competition in the area. They were really helpful when I was up against a wall and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm looking at or what I'm doing. Can you help me? And then they just like stepped up, because our industry is like needing more help. We need more people in the fireplace and chimney industry. Everyone's, aging out and we're not getting enough replacements. And so me coming in, they're all for helping out and kind of
and how do you reach out to your competition? Because I feel like, this is like a golden nugget where not a lot of people are brave enough to either do that or think of that. What made you go like, all right, guys, I need your help? And what was your strategy there? What were you thinking?
You're talking about strategy. Suck it up, buttercup, make the phone call. It doesn't matter what you want or what you feel like doing. It's, hey, they have an answer to a question that I have, and you call them. Yep. That's it. That's the strategy.
I love your bias for action. A lot of people overthink things and just aren't willing to do that. I think being unembarrassable is a really great trait that any entrepreneur can have. And then also having no ego and being humble. And humble enough to be like, I don't know anything. I need help, and kind of like raising your hand and going for that phone call. And I think it's a great golden nugget that you just shared, because too many people overthink it, I think.
Yeah. No, everyone kind of gets in their own head. And as soon as you get in your own head, you start coming up with all kinds of craziness, and your entire biochemistry goes and takes over of the fight or flight and, this whole internal turmoil. And if you just don't even think about it and you just jump in, you just like start doing without planning even, on things like that, then you don't get afraid of the unknown, because you didn't anticipate the negative, consequences of whatever's that you're trying to do.
Yeah. And what do you think separates kind of successful business owners from struggling? Because you guys, as you're projecting for 2025, is to double your revenue from last year. So just under $1 million to hit 800K. That's a lot of growth. That's wild, especially since you guys are that young. What are your kind of tips when you get asked that?
We consistently bite off more than we can chew, and we just choke it down. So we've been super blessed coming into this new year with some really major opportunities, and that's why we're projecting that double growth on that. We've got some really, really interesting things in the works right now.
That's nice. So, and when you're planning for that, you're the clock strikes new year. Do you already know like what that path forward looks like? Or is this a goal that you set and then you're like, all right, we got to make this happen somehow, guys?
Yeah, closer to that. So what I do is I think at the end, and what does that point of the future? What is that goal? What does it look like? And clearly define it, not just in my own mind, but also like, what does that tangibly look and feel like? And then go and say, all right, well, break it down from there. What needs to happen in order for that to be true? Because as it is, there is no way that we can go and accomplish that. But if that wasn't the case, what would have to be true for that to be accomplished? And then you go and say, okay, well, these things would have to, okay, well, what would have to be true for those things to be true? And you break it down that way. And then you can say, okay, now we actually have feasibility. Now that we have the feasibility of the plan, now we can go and break that down again from end in mind and create milestones of different targets all the way down to the week of these things, these actionable items need accomplished this week, period. And then next week has its own. And when you do that, it just creates that entire flow of things coming to fruition of what was just an intangible, just outlandish goal.
Yeah, I think a concrete strategy to do this is take your revenue goal. So let's take 800K divided by 12. So that's 66,000 a month. And so you're looking at about, I don't know, is it 16, 17,000 a week? And so 16, 17,000 a week, you got 5 days. So it's about 3K a day. And so if you figure out your average job ticket, I don't know, let's make it 500. So it's like 6 big jobs a day. And then you got to think about, okay, well, one person can't do that. One person
Nope.
can't do 6 jobs, right? And so maybe one person can do 2. So if that's the case, you need 3 people. And so I think breaking it down like that. I also think a lot of business owners, they'll set like a big goal and they kind of start to fall behind. So let's say they're month 1, they don't hit that 66. Maybe they hit 20. Well, remember, like that goal, that money, you still have to allocate and distribute across 11. So now you take whatever is left of that goal and divide it by 11. And so that's called pacing. But if you're not doing pacing and forecasting and breaking that down, these goals can run away from you where you're like halfway through the year and like, oh my God, I'm so far behind. How do I even catch up to what that original goal was? But if you're doing it along the way, I really like your strategy a lot, which is like just like week by week, what's on the board? How do we make it happen? How do we hit that, 15K in this case, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Where are you finding like good technicians, good people to work for you? Because one might say like, I don't know, why do I want to work for this Kyle guy? He doesn't have a lot of experience in this industry, but the business seems to be growing. So how are you attracting talent? Are you bringing in people with 0 experience? Are you bringing in people with experience? How are you finding them? I think that's always the hardest thing in the service business.
Yeah, really great question. That one is a little bit more complex or actually requires a little bit of a background to fully answer that really thoroughly. But when it comes to talent, we're looking more for people that do not have experience because there's not a whole lot in the marketplace that already has fireplace and chimney experience. And even when we do, they have their own way of doing things, which is not necessarily the most correct way that could be done or should be done. A lot of it's unregulated and people kind of just do as they please. And we don't do that. And so I prefer no experience and to train because I can train and I can teach you everything about a fireplace and a chimney. So when it comes to hiring, what we're really looking for is the personality of the person, the work ethic of the person, and the reliability of the person. And how we go and foster that is through love itself. AHAVAH means love. And so when we go and have that as not just our name, but the core fabric of everything that we do, every job, every person, every position, we keep love at that center and we just keep reiterating it on top of. So every one of my technicians, they thoroughly enjoy the work that they do. They actually love the customer and that home and that fireplace that they're going and handling. They love their colleagues and coworkers and ladies in the office. Ladies in the office love the position that they do and they are good at it because they love it. So it's kind of the backwards of what modern day culture goes and says, follow your passion. That's what we always hear, follow your passion. And people they don't know what they're passionate about, or they know it, they go and they do that, and then they end up hating it because they've turned it into a job. And so what historically you look at, even the big names, even, like the really big entrepreneurs, they aren't following their passion. They're doing what they do. They get good at it. And in getting good at it, they fall in love with it. Once they fall in love with it, then they get great at it. And that's how that progression naturally goes. So we're just taking that on the front end. And if we can foster an entire culture of love itself for everything and everything that we touch, then our people get really good really fast.
I love having this like very clear mission. And I think people rally around that. And I think you can recruit around that. And I think ultimately, your business is only as good as your employees and how much they love their job and how much they really care about it. And so, your strategy effectively of just finding people that just love that aspect of the business and then training them up on the rest is way better than trying to convince someone that might be good at something to love something because that is way more difficult. And I don't even know if that's possible. I don't even know if it's possible. Maybe over time, I guess, but
I wouldn't think so. I don't know. But
yeah, that's tough. That's tough. When you're thinking about, building resilience against fear of financial risk, I mean, you took a pretty big jump to do this. What advice do you have A, for others that are looking to get in a trade that they don't know anything about or very little about, but then B, the financial risk that kind of comes with it. What gave you that confidence to make that jump?
Pure stupidity, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I always knew that innately, I guess, that I was an entrepreneur. Like when I was a kid, like I started 3 different businesses, before I was 10 or 12. And so, like it's always just been ingrained, like that is what's going to happen. And as I got into adulthood, I had kind of like this little crisis of like, I don't know what adults do. And so I just went and figured it's like all that I could come up with of what adults do now that I was like, 20 or 19 or whatever it was they have a job, they buy a house, and they start a family. It's like, that's all I could come up with as far as the root things that an adult man does. And so I had a job. It's like, check. I'm not going to start a family right now, so, postpone that. And so I guess I can buy a house. And so I just did. I just went out and just found one that checked all the boxes. Had no idea what I was looking for. No idea what I was, anything. And it turned out to be, horrible, horrible house. Amazing investment. Needed everything when it comes to work. There's holes in the roof, holes in the floor down to the basement. It was uninsurable. It was a fantastic investment property that I bought for my first home, just because it was a little crisis.
No, and look, I think there is a certain naivete that comes with entrepreneurialism where you just gotta jump and figure out how to build the plane on the way down. But if you don't make that jump, then you never figure out how to build out the plane in the first place. And so you kind of, it's like a little bit of a chicken or egg, and they kind of come together. As you're building things out, you stumbled upon Housecall Pro. Like, talk me through that. Like, at what point were you like, okay, I need something like this to help me run my business more effectively, et cetera? Like, what was that aha moment? Did you know it from the start? Was it always part of the plan? Or was this another one of those, we need something to track something because too much has fallen through the cracks?
I always knew that I was going to do something, because when I went and took over the remaining assets of the old company, they were still doing things on paper calendars, and they had just graduated to using Google Calendar for scheduling their jobs. And so, big shining light of opportunity here. And I immediately went and got this program. It's called like ClickUp or something, and it helped. It was clunky and was not meant for the purpose that we were using it. But it was fast and dirty. I didn't know about Housecall Pro, and we sunk it all into that system. I ended up wanting Service Titan, but Service Titan was really expensive and sounded really complicated. So Housecall Pro ended up going and fitting every checkbox that we were looking for, and had everything and more than what we needed as far as what we thought our base was. Turns out it's a whole lot more robust, and I'm sure we can get into that.
Yeah, definitely. When you think about some of the main things that Housecall Pro does, what's something that you wish you would have started with day one when you got the software? Now that you know more of the things that Housecall Pro can do, what's something where you're like, oh man, if I could tell Kyle just a couple of years ago just to do this one thing and make sure everyone in the office does this, or make sure my technicians do this, like what is that? What's that piece of advice?
The VoIP is really, really imperative. It helps you not only go and reduce the liability when it comes to a customer complaint or some issue happening. Hey, I didn't agree on this and that and the other, because all the calls are recorded. But you can go back into your calls with your salesperson or yourself or your CSR or whoever, your techs, and go and say, hey, this job didn't go well, or this job did go well, and you made that sell and it was perfect. Like, what did we do? And then you can go and like get that playbook. It's no different than in football, going back and watching plays and like getting better. So it's like it allows you to get a lot better in your communication as individuals and as a team, and it reduces your liability. And anytime that a previous customer calls back, it pops up their name and account, and you can just get straight into it versus having to ask for their name. Is it this and isn't it? Pretending like they're like a brand new customer trying to figure everything out. Then maybe having a duplicate account for them. Yeah. So,
totally. Yeah. I mean, I think that's great advice for people that are out there, VoIP, voice over IP, we call the product voice. There's lots of those types of solutions out there, like the Ring Centrals, the Grasshoppers, the dial pads of the world. But the thing to remember is, like, if it doesn't integrate, if it's not inside of your system, you don't get all the added benefits that Kyle mentioned, which is like auto popping the existing clients and making them feel like, oh yeah, they know about me, and they're more likely to stick with you. Being able to have all their service history and all that stuff at your fingertips when you're on the call is just invaluable. The time that it takes to get there is zero, because it pops up, right? You're fairly well versed in all things that are new. Obviously, on the AI side, that's really adding a lot of extra leverage to a lot of smaller businesses, especially in the home services space. What are some things that you're doing right now, just with different AI tools, things that are in there that are helping you right now?
Within Housecall Pro or outside?
Yeah, within Housecall Pro and also outside of Housecall Pro too. I'd love to hear both.
Yeah, so inside of Housecall Pro, we've got all of the AIs that they're developing, and we're just trying to use that and learn and understand it, I guess, a little bit better than what I currently do. The Analyst is extremely helpful when you're trying to get quick information instead of pulling a bunch of different reports and going cross-referencing them and just trying to figure it out, how we do. You can just ask it, simple question: how much revenue has this tech done within this time period, and then what jobs were they? And it can just go and pull all that. And so it's not like the AI tools within Housecall Pro are changing anything that we're doing. It's just making it faster. And so it's been really, really helpful, to say the least.
Yeah. And I think, look, that's the purpose of AI, is really to be able to just be an augmentation of what you're doing, but just do it faster because it has all the data at its fingertips, versus you would have to go in, create a revenue report, then create revenue report by employee, by time. And, before you've done those slices, it takes a little bit. Not that you can't do it. It's just, takes a little more time. And then I think you can now spend that time doing other things, right, that are more valuable for your business. And that's where the value is really generated.
Exactly.
And what about, like, outside of Housecall Pro? What things are you seeing? What things have you tried? What's working well for you? Give up some of that Kyle's secret sauce there.
Oh, man. No, AI is helping just about every area of our company. We've been utilizing OpenAI's different, products. And we've been using it for tech training, for upselling, for housing our company's information as far as the culture and dialogue of how we communicate. We've created a custom API that is dedicated towards just our company and knowing all of our P&Ls and numbers and goals and targets. And it really helps with developing what my ideas are and getting that down into tangible, here's what needs to happen. It's like having a best friend that is crazy smart, that you don't have to pay and knows everything. And so going and customizing that for that. We've got another API that is dedicated just for customer communication, so that when we are going and sending emails, when you have a bunch of different people in the office or in the field that are communicating with different customers, everyone has their own communication style. Everyone is or is not very good at, spelling and,
grammar and everything,
sentence structure and stuff like that. Let alone going and having the tonality of what you want your business to be like. And so we've created that API so that everything is the same across the board. So before they actually go and send that email or send that text message to the customer, they go and they run it through our custom GPT API, and it takes what they say, turns it into our company's language and style. Then they can just copy and paste that and send. And so it keeps a uniformity throughout the entire thing. We call him Guy. He's, the representation of our little character. And so, everyone gets to feel like they're communicating with a singular individual in how that communication is going about. So
that's a great use case, and that's an amazing golden nugget, because I think, like you said, a lot of people have different communication styles, and their grammar is not always, the same, and but their tonality also, is it professional but casual? Is it professional but fun? And you can teach, you can teach AI to essentially model what you want it to be, and then you can have everybody saying and talking in the same way. I think that's really cool, and getting everyone to buy in on using, you named your custom GPT Guy, is a really cool idea. And I think that, for $20 a month, getting, everyone in your company access to a tool like this, I've seen, like you mentioned, just training and upsells. If you've got those standard operating procedures, load those up inside of a knowledge base. So that way you can reference that and train against that. And, the best thing too is use the voice AI and just go try against it. So, if you want to go battle it out, duke it out on an upsell or maybe a tough customer situation or whatever, you can describe it. You can walk through the scenarios before you have the actual conversation yourself. So there's so many really cool use cases, but go ahead.
We even have one that's dedicated just for our field techs, where we have custom done the API with and given it all of our installation manuals, all of our troubleshooting guides, all of our SOPs, all of our information from manufacturers, installation procedures, repair sequences, and just everything is all in that. And so our guys can literally go and take a picture of the fireplace and then a picture of the model number, upload it to that custom GPT, then ask it or tell it, here's what it is doing, here's what it's not doing, help me troubleshoot this. And it can literally just tell them step by step exactly what to do. Like, it's so good. I could take a kid off the street, teach him or tell him what a fireplace is in 20 minutes, and then go and put him in a truck. And if he literally just followed the directions of that custom GPT, he can go and do all of our normal everyday stuff. Like, he's not going to be able to go and, do some of the difficult ones, but all the normal stuff. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think that time to mastery just like compressed, and it reminds me, of the scene in The Matrix where it's just like, oh, upload a book. I know how to fly a helicopter. Oh, upload a book. I know how to do this. Because you're essentially uploading the manuals for these things, and so a lot of that troubleshooting, the error codes, those types of stuff, and even standard stuff. When you're thinking about thermocouplers and like, those kind of pieces. Once you kind of figure out those basics, there's only a handful of things in most cases that go wrong. And then you got your advanced cases that you really need to go work through. You need some experience. But I think being able to give that extra backup probably saves you a bunch of calls where it's like, hey, Kyle, what do I do? You can be like, I don't know, go to custom GPT, go look it up, and save you time on those calls too.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Like, we've reduced those calls on mine from, too many a day, all the way now. I get maybe a couple a week of my guys like, hey, I'm stumped. There's this, that, I've already done da 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 da, and that's like, to be honest, you've done exactly what I'd tell you to do. Have you called the manufacturer? I don't know. Like, you've done literally everything to all of my knowledge. Like, totally. I just be going and poking it with a stick at this point.
See what happens.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. All right, Kyle, tell me what's your favorite feature inside of Housecall Pro?
Favorite feature? That is such a loaded question.
What do you think is the most underrated feature that you think is? And we talked about voice. That's like something you should start using from day one. But let's talk about the most underrated feature. I think maybe not enough people talk about.
I think that's going to be determined upon who that specific person is. So, like, if you're just getting started and you're like, I'm just getting introduced to Housecall Pro, I'm just starting my business, I'm just, it's me and I've got a couple of other people, like, really the most valuable, I think, would actually be Conquer. Conquer is incredible for getting you from I know nothing to I'm running a successful company that is able to actually, not just build and grow, but to scale it, like even further. If I would have known about that in the beginning, I would have saved myself so much time and headache and frustration and money. I mean, I've lost countless everything from just not knowing. And Conquer would have helped mitigate an enormous pool of that.
Yeah, sure. And for those that are kind of tuning in that might not know what Conquer is, but that's our business coaching. So as a part of Housecall Pro, our mission is to champion our pros to success. One way to help our pros to success is this piece of software that we've created. But the other piece is this coaching, which is a lot of folks are out there that have a lot of trade-specific knowledge. But this is the first time you're going off and, do you do an LLC with an S Corp election, and how do you structure commissions and performance pay versus what's job costing and how am I making sure that each job I'm doing is profitable versus not, and just spinning your wheels. But coaching is super important, especially for those pros that are just kind of new. What about the ones that are experienced? What would you recommend? The ones that have been doing it for a little bit, have their business up and running. What do you think they should be looking at?
If you are experienced and you're going to, opting like, hey, we use Housecall Pro, or we're about to use Housecall Pro, really, I would go all in on it. When you've got that, you just need to make that bite the bullet, full swap of everything over. I mean, it's just a full stop. Like everything integrates within its own housing so well that it makes a lot of our other systems and processes that we have redundant at best and pointless most of the time. And so the only one that I would say I don't personally know about is the bookkeeping. We still use QuickBooks, and it goes, and there are some issues with some of the porting over with that. I don't know. It's something that we're actually talking about right now, whether or not we should go and swap over to the accounting software or not within Housecall Pro. I think it is going to be a lot more streamlined, but I just don't have enough knowledge in order to go and say one way or another on that. Yeah. But
you haven't used it yet. It's also still very new, within this last year. So it's a new product offering, as a part of what we offer. The more that we can take off of our pros plates and focus them back on the things that they do best, which is interfacing with customers, troubleshooting and doing the work that only they can do versus doing the work that AI or software can do, that's where we try to provide a lot of returns, because that's where you generate your income from. You don't get it by closing your books by yourself late at night. You don't get it by uploading receipts and having to deal with expense cards, and cash receipts, of your technicians buying Snicker bars, at gas stations and all that kind of stuff. Those are things you can just do inside a Housecall Pro very easily. Well, this has been super awesome. You've dropped so many great golden nuggets, Kyle. Is there any one piece of advice you would tell baby Kyle, younger Kyle, maybe not 12-year-old Kyle, but Kyle maybe minus 5 years, before he got into this whole thing? What kind of piece of advice would you want to float out there for our audience to hear?
I mean, really just do it. Nike, scary, it's planning, it's this, that, and just, what is it? There is a phrase. I think there's a book, Ready, Fire, Aim. Just go all in. Don't try and wait for the perfect moment. Just make it happen. Do it by force. There's always a time for optimization. But there's also always a time for just absolute sheer violence. And that's really, really what I would say is, doesn't matter what you feel. There's a time for sheer violence. It's just working, 100 hours a week. Doesn't matter. It's do what's required, don't do the best that you can. Do what's required. So
I like that. All right, we got some good pull quotes. That's going to go in socials. I'm sure the team's going to see them and be like, yes, we're going to have that be the headline. It's really good. Yeah, even imperfect action beats inaction every single day of the week. And so just get at it for sure. This has been really great, Kyle. Thank you so much for sharing so many great golden nuggets here with our audience today. What's the best way if they want to reach out and they're like, hey, Kyle, I want to talk to you. I want to pick your brain. I want to I've got some questions for you. What's the best way that people can connect with you online?
We've got our Facebook page. I'm on there, often. That's AHAVAHFire.com for our website. We've got, you can always just do a cold, just reach out. Like that's how I got started. It's cold reach out. Just totally, hey, I'm nobody. You don't care about me, but I need help. Here's my problem. Can you help me?
That's awesome. Do that. I bet you Kyle will be very excited to get that call. So just go Google AHAVAH Fire Chimney and go look at Branson, Missouri, and then you'll find a phone number. Call them and say, hey, Kyle, let's chat. That's the best place to start. Thank you guys all so much again, and stay tuned for another episode coming to you all next week. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
The Superpro Podcast is brought to you by Housecall Pro, the leading platform for the home service industry. Housecall Pro streamlines your workflows and simplifies everything from scheduling and dispatching to communication and billing. Unlock the full potential of your home service business with Housecall Pro. Work smarter and more efficiently with streamlined workflows and detailed analytics. Win more business and serve your customers well, every single time. Join more than 40,000 home service pros who have already revolutionized their businesses. Work smarter with streamlined workflows, get organized with centralized information, and scale your business your way. Learn more at housecallpro.com.